Most vendors think that GSA Advantage sales are automatic, but this is very, very wrong. GSA Advantage is not what I would call a traffic machine. It's basically just a search platform, and search platforms reward optimization. That's what we're going to be talking about today. How do you optimize GSA Advantage to maximize government sales? Specifically for products, because that's basically what GSA Advantage sells. If you're not serious about it, you're just going to kind of float into obscurity. I've seen it for years, for decades actually. So here's kind of some clarifying truth around this. Top vendors in the GSA Advantage space, and just top vendors that sell to the government in general, they're not guessing. They're using AI and higher level processes to basically work this system that they create, and it basically is quietly keeping them compliant and consistently keeping them at the very top level of sales within their category. So let's set the context here. What is GSA Advantage? Like, what really is it? New vendors maybe have never even heard about it. Vendors that have been around the government space for a long time know it, understand it at a pretty deep level. So let's talk to both. GSA Advantage is just a federal purchasing search engine that is like Amazon, but also in a way very much not like Amazon. If you keep on watching, you're going to kind of see the difference, because it's just not very sophisticated as a search engine for products. It's very simple. That makes it actually very easy to manipulate and to win and get your products at the very top so that you can be seen and you can be bought. Let's also talk a little bit about what GSA Advantage is not. It has really nothing to do with marketing. It doesn't have anything to do with lead generation. It's not really something that I would even say that you can lean on to get a passive income, because you have to do continuous improvement, and you just always want to be making sure that as everything's changing, you're still on top. If you're not optimizing your listings on GSA Advantage, then you're probably floating downward into invisibility. That's just a fact, and having a GSA contract is a massive asset, but if you don't take the steps to work towards improvement and earning your sales, you're not going to see them, especially in GSA Advantage. So now I want to take a moment to speak directly to companies that don't have a GSA contract yet. Why should you listen to anything about GSA Advantage? Well, this is a really big learning opportunity for you to decide to get into the GSA program. And when you do, this is going to give you the blueprint on how to succeed within product sales. This GSA Advantage really is a platform that your future buyers, once you're in GSA, are going to use to find you, to find your products. And your contract is the ticket in. So you have to go through the whole process. That's where GSA Focus helps. If you do need help with that, just shoot me an email, sales@gsafocus.com, and we'll get you some help there. But this optimization that is going to be happening in GSA Advantage is going to determine whether your products are seen or if they're just going to be invisible. Basically, I see a lot of poor listings in GSA Advantage. I see 95% of the listings in GSA Advantage have almost no effort. It's to throw the spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks kind of situation. And a lot of vendors just say, I had to go through this whole process with GSA for negotiating pricing and all this and stuff. I'm going to just dump it all into GSA Advantage. Maybe I'll fix it all up later and optimize it. And then they never come back and do that. So GSA Advantage is just kind of a big mess of ugliness. Now, if you can be the pretty one among all of the ugliness, buyers are going to find you better and they're going to really love you for it. So if you do things well, you get rewarded. That's kind of just something that happens in life. So all of this to say that if you're serious about maximizing your sales using GSA Advantage, then your products are going to be seen and purchased. If you're not serious about it, you're just going to kind of float into obscurity. I just wanted to go over a little bit on how GSA Advantage ranking actually works, because it's all about ranking. If you don't show up at the top of the first page, you're probably just not going to see any sales. You're not going to get found. So just to kick things off at a high level, we're talking about search relevance using keywords and descriptions, and your titles just getting everything so that the search engine is going to find it, for one, and for two, the buyer is going to really, it's going to pop out to them. So two very important things. This is going to be kind of just having a lot of clarity around, of course, what your product or service is, and that's where the keyword can come in and really kind of like start at a high level, and then you can kind of chunk down from there to help the buyer kind of like go on the right journey towards understanding your product and why they should buy from you. Another really important one is just data completeness. So, and also consistency. A lot of folks on GSA Advantage, and I would even say the majority, are pretty bad at writing good descriptions and consistently writing good descriptions. It's just the truth. Understanding, this is the fourth bullet point here, buyer behavior signals, understanding them and just kind of like, what's the process? Somebody comes to them, drops it on their desk, hey buddy, I need you to buy me, 5,000 reams of paper. I need you to buy me, 800 holsters. We're going to go out in the field in a week. So the buyers in the government space react to their departments and their needs. And they could be buying, toilet paper 1 minute, right into buying, complex software and researching that the next minute. So they have to become a jack of all trades sometimes. Now, understanding that is one thing. The other is just the process. They go to GSA Advantage for products, they click in, they compare prices and other variables, and then they buy. And orders under $10,000, $20,000 they could just go in and buy. Pull out the credit card and go. That's an important thing to understand, the process behind your buyers. And also just that there aren't any guaranteed sales. You get into the GSA program and that's great. You are in a fantastic place. You're in basically the marketplace that the government goes to buy products when they're jumping into GSA Advantage. But you can't ever assume that you will just get sales. You always have to go to that higher level, compete well. So take on that mentality of, what am I doing wrong? Where are the bottlenecks? How can I improve? This isn't just a get into GSA and it's a cakewalk from there. Nothing in life is like that. So yeah, basically the phrase I love is GSA doesn't reward effort, it rewards precision. So be precise when you are uploading and just doing everything around selecting your products, showcasing them properly with images and really tight titles and descriptions, keywords. Do everything you need to do to show up at the top at GSA Advantage and present well to buyers. And this is, if you've watched my videos, you know me. I love AI. I love using it, but I love using it the right way. So I use ChatGPT, but you can use any AI service that you use. But it is basically the quiet thing that is giving vendors the edge here, I believe. I think it's a force multiplier for one, thinking and structuring how you're going to do things overall. So you can really have a conversation around strategy and kind of figure out just the overall philosophy or variables that you're going to keep to win. You can even feed it what your competitors are doing and say, find the good things, find the holes that they're missing, and help me to be the very best at presenting my products. I want to win awards. I want money. The next thing that AI is good for is assisting, which I misspelled there. Sorry about that. Assisting with ideas. So just bouncing ideas back and forth. Is this a good idea? Critique this idea. Find holes. Tell me how it can be improved. So anytime you're doing anything, you can just go right to ChatGPT and drop the idea in there and tell it, to make it better or convince me not to do it. Maybe it's a bad idea. I go deep into keyword analysis in a minute when I'm going to go into the 5 different tactical approaches. So keyword analysis is really important. You can actually take, everybody that I work with getting companies into GSA has some sort of a price list, and they have words that make phrases and sentences that describe their products and services. Now, that is not always the best thing to grab and drop into GSA Advantage. It certainly is going to be informational. That's great. But if you drop it in there and you do 2 different things, keyword analysis and intent analysis, you're going to have better titles and descriptions. So the keyword analysis, you drop it in there and say, give me a list of the top 3, I think 3 is a good number, but maybe 5, the top 3 keywords that a buyer would search for based on this, this title and this description. You could upload everything around it. Then the next question should be, what are some of the intent, do an intent analysis of this as well. What are the buyers going to be, how are the buyers going to be approaching this purchase? That's kind of what the intent analysis is. And I'm going to go into what that is later, but it's a really important next level way to just do things better. Now is the time when you're going to see 5 tactical use cases that I created. These are, I think, the most important ones. So let's jump right in. This is tactical test number 1. And basically here is the main topic is just that vendors oftentimes just guess how the government buyers are going to be searching for their products. I found a really good example here. Check this out. It really just comes down to keywords. You almost think of GSA Advantage like Google was in the early 2000s, where keyword stuffing and all sorts of weird tactics would work. That kind of still is the case with GSA Advantage. So this is a case where I just ran the search armored vehicle. A buyer probably types this in every day, searching for an armored vehicle that they're going to buy. There was literally, of all these results, doesn't say how many results, I don't think, but it does say, yeah, so there's 25 per page, times 5 at least, a ton of results. Only one hit for armored vehicle as those two words connected together. And that's the top result. You could see here armored ambulance body, armored multi-purpose vehicle. So the two words are there, but they're not together. Electrical, here's armored vehicle together right there, but it's not in the very front of the subject line or the title. Armored, this doesn't have the word vehicle. Maybe it has the word vehicle. It does have armored vehicles in the description. So really, when you're creating your title, which comes up right here, and when you're creating your description down here, you really want your keyword variations tied directly to what buyer is going to be typing in. You can see this is not a very sophisticated system. So yeah. Now this just really is just baseline, lowest common, like foundational kind of thing. List your keywords. Think about your keywords, of course, what people will be typing in when they're looking to buy, and make sure that those keywords are dropped in the title. You can add two other words too, and then also in the description. And this will basically improve the relevance because you're hitting the hierarchy. First, they know they need an armored vehicle. Then they know they need an ambulance. Then they know that that ambulance has to accommodate certain equipment on the inside. So they're kind of running down the list there. And by kind of thinking of that process in advance and developing your titles and your descriptions for your products, you're going to be a big step ahead of your competition. And you can see it right here. It's not done super well. Now, the next one in this tactical case, tactical use case number 2, is basically just make your listings lively. Don't make them dry. There are so many dry listings here. You can see in this one, it's the top result, but there's not really a good image, and this is not very helpful as a description. So who's gonna buy that? Not knowing what it is, who's gonna spend $4,000 on that? This is a pretty decent description, but in all of this, what does it even say about the product? It has a SKU right here that doesn't even match the part number here. It keeps going into the name of the manufacturer, all these codes. Use plain English, guys. Use plain English here. Not to say this isn't helpful, but put it at the bottom. People don't think this way, although sometimes they do want to know some of the specs, and maybe they do want to know, okay, what's the manufacturer part number? Not a bad idea to put that in. And a lot of, phone numbers, email, not bad idea to put that in as well, but give them some good descriptions first. Mounted on medium duty commercial chassis. So this kind of tells what it is, top speed. But again, it starts going into spec sheets. Here's a great example of using an image. It's an armored Cadillac Escalade, and it has an Escalade, and it has this nice little, it's like obviously inside of a building that was made for taking photos. Same thing here for this armored Lexus. So good stuff here. But again, they go all into the specs. Government buyers do care about specs, but have some language there. Sell your products in a sentence or two before you start jumping into the specs. Yeah, they're going to care about like the level of armor that it has. They're going to care for some of the other specs, of course, 4-wheel drive, that important stuff. Put it in there. But put at the top, make it like it's for a human. So here's some good example. Well, here's some, I'm still looking for a good example, to be honest, because GSA Advantage is just loaded up with bad examples of this. Let's go to page 4, just deep in here. This Incus has a lot of listings. You'll know a good one when you see it actually. Now, you can use ChatGPT to load these in. You could take this whole description and load it into ChatGPT and say, give me 2 sentences that will be a, buyer relevant listing for this product, just to draw in or hook a buyer to look deeper into the vehicle. And AI, like ChatGPT, is going to do a great job with that. And you could even reuse it. A lot of these vehicles are the same or very similar. So you can reuse the same description header or hook for a lot of them. And yeah, I mean, I would just tell the AI, make sure that there's clarity, make sure that it's scannable and doesn't have weird exaggeration, because AI does that. That's really it. I mean, for the second use case here, we really want to make the listings engaging. We all know how we shop on Amazon, and I'm telling you this right now. If you are on this first listing and you see no picture, just a logo, and yeah, that's a really good header, but there's very few, specs or write-up on what this is, you're not going to buy that. You just aren't. We live in a world where Amazon has made the buyer expect more education, more information. We want to know as consumers what we're buying, and that carries over into the government space. So now going into tactical use case number 3, just price competitiveness. Pretty straightforward. Armored vehicles probably isn't the best one for that, but let's just go into it anyways. I'm noticing that buyers that are coming to GSA Advantage are actually showcased. Let's just go into building and industrial, ground support vehicle maintenance. Okay, so here's a product, and if we go here, there's 4 sources. So if we're a buyer, you're looking at the price, of course, but you're also looking at a lot of these other terms and conditions. Price competitiveness is really important. There are 4 companies listing this product, and 3 of them are basically out of range. One was able to get under $31, and the others are above $31. This one actually is 8 days delivered, which is the best, tied with that one. All of the shipping is the same. They're a small business. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna win 9 times out of 10. Maybe even 10 times out of 10 on this product. Now, if this premier business here ran a sale, maybe 5% discount, and dropped that down to $29 and something, yeah, it would take their margin down a little bit, but what would their sales look like for this item? Their sales would be massive. If 100 people buy these items a month, they would get 90 to 100 people buying these items a month, and they would overtake this company. So vendors don't spend enough time when they get into GSA. They've just been through a big long process of getting their price list approved, getting their discounts approved. Now they load it all up on a GSA Advantage, and it's just kind of like, oh, I hope it works. I hope people buy. You have access to all this data. It's open. Anybody could go to GSA Advantage. So see where your prices fall. The best price is really easy to find for buyers. In fact, look at this. See this $30.88? That's what this price is. And it's actually on sale. They are actually higher normally, but they run a sale and they drop it the right range, the best price. And as a result, I'm willing to bet they win almost all the time with this product. Now, that being said, this company, who is it? Manufacturers Higher Ground. This company, Great Falls Paper, they probably do something that not many product sellers do on GSA, and that is look at their price list and do a pretty deep competitive analysis and then take action on that analysis. Like I said before, a lot of companies get into GSA and they load their prices up, and it's kind of like throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. What products are going to be selling a lot? I hope a lot of them do. I hope we get a lot of sales. Don't hope. Do some research. Even if you have 1,000 products, look at each product and figure out which ones are the most competitive. How many of those 1,000 products, what percentage are the #1 priced item? If you don't know that, then you're just kind of hoping. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it that next level that's going to generate some major sales with GSA. And I see it all the time. Now, the positioning that you can get to get out of that kind of guesswork place, for vendors who want to just have this handled fully automated, accurate, and maintained over time, this is where we can actually step in at GSA Focus. So we have a great kind of custom software. We have great processes. We can do a lot of this competitive analysis for you, this is especially helpful if you have just tons of products, thousands, hundreds. Doing them manually is not fun. So reach out to us, sales@gsafocus.com, to learn just how we can remove the manual work here and just deliver you some massive time savings. All right, so now we're going to be going into tactical use case number 4. And this one, I'm just going to be going into a little kind of hack that I found over the years, because sometimes it's hard to get good data on government spending. They put the data all out there, it exists, but they don't go down to these deep levels where you get to see a lot of kind of granularity on specific products or product categories. This is a really quick and dirty way that I found to do that research and get some decent insights. It's using a site called USAspending.gov. So let's just use this case. So this is a laptop sleeve. Let's just copy that term. Now, USAspending.gov, you click on start searching. Just do some basic stuff here. So let me move myself real fast and just hit a couple years. There we go. And we'll drop in the keyword laptop sleeve, and we're just gonna hit add there and submit. No results. Well, let's make this do a little bit better. Let's just do the word laptop and add that. There we go. So now we should get some results. Gathering data. So here are all of the sales of laptops, 4,500 or so. And if we just scroll down, you're gonna see who buys the most. So FCC looks like is the awarding agency, DoD. Yeah, FCC is really buying laptops, a ton. That's surprising. You can even go sub-agency and all that. So that helps you know kind of the market size and who's buying. You can also see results by month and over time. Let's take this to by year. In 2025, 660 million. In 2024, 6 billion, 6.6 billion. Obviously, there's one major order for laptops that was like in the billions, or something happened weird there. But this gives you an idea if you're selling laptops, and among other things, laptops are selling at this level. You do the next thing, let's say a certain type of software, you run a search for that using some very general keywords, you get an idea of the market size for that. And maybe it's half the size for the laptops, and if I do a strong push on GSA for my laptop products, I'm gonna expect twice the return than software because I did this kind of quick and dirty research on USAspending. That's just a quick little hack. I wanted to sneak it in here as a tactical use case just because I do it a lot for customers, trying to help them figure out, if they sell a myriad of different product categories, which one should they kind of focus on first, second, and third, and prioritize them based on how likely it's going to be monetized, how likely they're going to see a return on that. Now transitioning to tactical use case number 5, what makes a vendor look competitive to buyers? And the pricing and the terms are often kind of like the silent differentiators. So this is something I went into just a little bit earlier. Let's go back to this page. And the terms, when you compare these sources, can be really, really helpful and insightful. The main ones, of course, prices here. Sometimes sometimes people are selling 3 and some are selling a dozen. So sometimes that comes into play. I'm gonna skip over features, socio, photo. Delivery in days can be important. If there's, this 21-day one right here, that's the most expensive, nobody in the world would buy that one. They also don't have an image. All of these companies do share the same FOB, the freight terms. It's destination, so basically freight's covered if they purchase at least 100. So they'd have to buy, 4 of these to get that free shipping, and they actually can't buy anything less than 4 of these. So, but yeah, I just want to go into that because a lot of companies are going to go into price, and that is primary, first and foremost. But the next level is just looking at delivery in days. If you're in the 21-day range, but you have the best price, you're still going to lose some sales because sometimes they need it quicker than 3 weeks. Sometimes they want it just around a week. That's, I'll pay an extra buck to get it in a week rather than 3 weeks. I think most people would. And then sometimes you see that some are destination, some are origin, which basically destination means the cost of shipping is built into the price. Origin means the opposite, that the buyer has to pay for freight. So that directly ties into the price. If this is the lowest price, but it's origin, then the buyer sees that and they say, oh, well, it's a buck cheaper, but freight's probably gonna be like $12 to $15. And that drops them right down to the bottom of the list in the buyer's mind. It's a very big eliminating factor. If you're not a destination, if you're looking through and researching how your products compare and a lot of your competitors are destination and you're not, you should really think of changing things up there. However you can. You might have to bump your price up a little bit. Hopefully you don't. But yeah, that's tactical use case number 5. I wanted to jump into this is another tactical use case. I'll call it number 6. It's kind of the thing that I find a very important part, it actually very much relates to the first one and the second one. When you are kind of building out your description, selecting the photos that you're going to use, look into search intent, nerd out on that for a little bit. This article is great. It's actually built for SEO, search engine optimization, but it gives you an idea of kind of the psychological way that you can phrase things to really engage buyers, get them into a place where they understand as best as they can. It's almost like there is a way that you can write your title that will be informational, and it hands over information, and then the buyer can come to you and say, I understand your information. But you can also write in a way that almost comes beside them and say, we're in this together. I understand what you are looking for and what you need. And that's where search intent comes in. So this article will go really, really deep in it. This will be in the link below, as a link in the description below. So make sure you click on that and kind of read through this. AI is actually fantastic with intent also. If you have a really dry and boring title and you drop it into AI and say, you could even drop this article in and say, use this article, to turn this really dry title into an intent-based title that is more of a good hook and just ties more into the intent of the buyer, rather than just throwing information at them. So that's kind of a psychological indicator that a lot, and I'll say almost all GSA Advantage vendors completely miss. And you can really stick out by doing that. Now, I will say this, intent is second in GSA Advantage. Keyword selection and placement is first. Of course, in Google, although they've turned it around, the intent is actually super important in Google results now. But in GSA Advantage, don't go so heavy on intent that you're messing up and pulling apart keywords. Keep the keywords together first, but think about intent. So now we've gone through a lot of content there. You probably have your head full of all sorts of ideas that you want to get out there and implement. I wanted to take a moment and just kind of like help you organize these thoughts into an actionable plan. So to start things off, long term, you're going to want to just audit your listings on some sort of schedule. I like quarterly. I don't think that's too much. I don't think it's too little. I think it's kind of right in that Goldilocks zone. So a full market eval of your products on GSA Advantage. How competitive are they? Are there any improvements? You can get super procedural with that over time and improve it. But yeah, do that audit. You're going to want to identify gaps in weak language with listings. Are your competitors overtaking you on price? That's a big one. If you're not the most competitive on price, that's almost like, a sin that cannot be forgiven. Within the buying community, price is king. Now, also just preparing and updating your contract continuously with modifications, which is something that GSA Focus does for our customers. So don't hesitate to reach out if we can help there. And yeah, this is really how GSA Advantage becomes a massive asset for you in your company. And yeah, it's kind of a chore to keep it up, but you got to do these things if you want to continue winning. Now, the hard truth is just that GSA Advantage doesn't just guarantee any sales. It's just the truth. It gives you visibility and it does give you credibility. As a vendor, you're kind of just pre-vetted. That's really nice. Another thing is it kind of, so that the confidence is there. The confidence is there among the buying community, but you still have to have the competitive price and you have to present well. Keeping to that discipline, that should all kind of play into your quarterly audit. And without this audit, without continuously optimizing, being on GSA Advantage just over time will matter less and less because it'll bring you less and less revenue. Now, a lot of vendors are just told, get the GSA contract and everything will come. They'll beat down your door. And I think a lot of vendors realize when they get in there, that's not true. So just understand there's a little bit of a workload. You're gonna have to just kind of get ahead of all of this and you're gonna have to be the best at it. Understand how people search when they're looking for your products on GSA Advantage, stay competitively priced, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, dormant contracts fill up GSA Advantage and you don't want to be one of those. You want to be one of the people that are getting the most out of it. And really the path forward here is just that first, if you don't have a GSA contract, explore it. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's not, but explore it and get an answer. And in order to do that, all you have to do is just email us at sales@gsafocus.com and we will schedule a discovery call and get to the bottom of that. Now, if you do have a GSA contract, then this is where we can probably help you find the mysterious or hidden upside that you're missing out on. Just where are the bottlenecks, where are the improvements that can be done to really help. All right, that's all I've got. Thank you so much. Don't forget to click that little subscribe button down below this video and leave a comment if there's anything you have to say, anything I could do to help. And always remember that top vendors win on GSA by being clearer, and AI is here to kind of help you get there faster and better. So that's why I'm continuing with this video series. And yeah, I hope this is huge for you.